Great morning, great afternoon, great evening, wherever this conversation finds you. I am Travis Gray, and today we are transforming with our guest, Valerie Gangas. With a background in religious studies and a Master of Transpersonal Psychology, Valerie is a speaker, life coach, and author. She is the best-selling author of Enlightenment is Sexy, and her latest publication, In Deep Shift. I'm really excited for this conversation with you, Valerie. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we met a while ago in an intensive seminar at Sophia University. You graduated with a master's degree in transpersonal psychology from there. And I just felt a resonance with you right away. There's something about the book Enlightenment is Sexy was really cool to me. And I'm just curious, like, how did this journey start for you? You are a religious studies major, you found transpersonal psychology, found Sophia, but what initially got you into all of those things?
I have always been interested in spirituality as far back as I can remember. My mom was a former Catholic nun. She was a poet. She specifically wrote mystical poetry. She was always talking to me about the Catholic mystics. Even at a young age, she could pick my birth date. So she had me on the feast day of Saint Teresa of Avila. So all these things added up to my love of spirituality. And it was probably because of her influence. So by the time I got to college, I remember saying to my parents, like, well, what else would I study but God? I mean, it's the only thing that really matters. And that started me down the road of, studying religion and then transpersonal psychology. Because I couldn't stop. I was devouring information on my own. And then I wanted to be in a more academic, structured environment. And that led me to Sophia. And like I told you before the interview started, I think what I really wanted to study was something like transpersonal psychology when I went to college, but I never knew that that was an option. So the best I could do was comparative religious studies, which I also enjoyed, but I wanted something deep.
Yes.
So I've always been drawn to this. I can't imagine not being drawn to spirituality. I love the psychology component. And yeah, I just went on and on. It just didn't stop.
So your mother was Rumi.
She was a total wizard. Yeah,
That's so
definitely.
cool. That's so beautiful. And so you found transpersonal psychology as a field. What makes this stand out in comparison to comparative religions? I've never been in a degree program of comparative religions. What makes it different? What makes it stand out differently?
Well, with comparative religious studies, it was more history, sociology. I had courses like Women in the Bible, so we would analyze different stories and stories that were left out of the Bible. It was way more academic in the sense that it was like history, sociology. It didn't give you room to like really expand your mind within the study. Where transpersonal psychology, it made me dig deep within myself. It was a different type of track. And for me, the reason I wanted to study transpersonal psychology is because I was really interested in spiritual emergencies because of an experience that I personally had. And that's where my interest lied, because of this experience that I had after a very long meditation course.
Yeah. So you had an experience during a meditation course that made you think that you should have maybe a more personal spiritual study of religion and spirituality, and that's what brought you to transpersonal psychology. Did I hear that?
And I wanted to understand like what happened to me, and I knew I wasn't going to find that in like just a normal religious studies class.
Yeah.
I needed more.
Yeah. And then this new book, In Deep Shift, that is about that, right? That spiritual emergency, maybe an emergence happening, the deep shift that is happening for people.
Right. And that's, coming off the heels of Enlightenment is Sexy, that was a little lighter, and, everything was kind of magical and full of butterflies and glitter. This In Deep Shift, it got more real because of the experiences I started having as time went on.
Yeah. How did you come up with such a compelling title, Enlightenment is Sexy? And then this one, In Deep Shift. How does that happen?
Enlightenment is Sexy. I dreamt it up one night and I woke up early in the morning and immediately wrote it down, and then literally called my attorney like the moment I could and trademarked it, because I knew it was something really special, because I felt like real beauty came from being awake. It
Yeah.
was like a totally different way of seeing, quote unquote, what sexy was.
Yeah.
And when I would see people that were awake, they were like gorgeous to me. They were just full of light. And to me, that was like really sexy.
Right. Yeah.
Um, eh,
There's something that like comes out from the inside onto the features that they are
totally.
presenting in the world.
Yeah, it's just a different type of beauty. And that's the beauty that I was drawn to. And so I thought, like, well, that's really what's sexy. It's not, what shade lipstick you have on, or, what dress you're wearing that day. It's no, that's not,
It's
doesn't have
enlightening.
anything to do with it.
Yeah.
So, and I wrote the book for women because I honestly did not think any men would read it. And I
Mhm.
was trying to put the message out, like, it's an inside job. Like, that's what's going to make you beautiful and sexy, instead of like chasing those Kardashian dreams.
Yeah.
So
Did you find a lot of men read the book as well?
they did. And I did not see that coming. I don't know why. I had never written a book before. So I kind of just assumed it would be all women. I have no idea why I thought that, but yes, a lot of men ended up reading the book, and they all said the same thing. Like, why is this book only for women? Like, I really liked it. And it was just my mind
Yeah.
going in that direction.
Where did you find the courage to author your first book during your master's degree program?
Um, I think I was just finishing it up when I started. No, I think I finished the book. I'm trying to think of the timeline now. And then I think I went on the meditation course, and then I started my master's degree. So I think there was a little bit of a break in time.
So it was actually before you went into the master's degree program.
Yes, it was. Yeah. I had to think about that. I have like no sense of time whatsoever, but yes, it was before that, because I was working for the David Lynch Foundation, and
Mhm.
then that ended, and then I wrote the book. Then my brother got leukemia.
Mhm.
Then I started my master's degree, or maybe it like overlapped a little bit. So there was a little bit of a gap, I think.
Yeah. Wow. It's so courageous to have decided to do that. So where did you find? Yeah, I find a lot of scholars, a lot of colleagues in this field of transpersonal psychology, or just other in any field, they feel this resistance to the authorship of their books, the authorship of their offerings into the world. Where do you find your courage and confidence in yourself to put out this what became a best-selling book, Enlightenment is Sexy?
I don't know. I've never thought about it as courage. It's just I actually had a dream
Hmm.
that was a very profound, real dream. And my mother was in it. She had passed away in 2011. She came to me while I was sleeping, but I was actually awake. And she showed me herself at a typewriter, and
Hmm.
she was typing. And I said to her, like, you passed away. Like, why are you still typing? Like, I wasn't making the connection. And she said, I'm continuing my work, but it's going to be through you. And I said to her, I don't know how to write. Like, I was in the restaurant and bar business. I had nothing to do with writing. She was the writer. And she said, you will write, and I'm going to write through you. So that really affected me. And then it was like a year later that I quit my job and sold everything I owned, and just like, it was in my mind, and then I had to do it. And that's when I moved out to Iowa, specifically to distance myself from my world and write the book. So I didn't look at it as courage. It felt almost like I was being led to do it. And I kind of just paid attention to those signs.
Yeah. So when you moved to Iowa, were you in this you moved to that meditation town, right? What is
Yeah.
it? What's the name?
Fairfield, Iowa.
Fairfield, Iowa.
Mhm.
I was born and raised in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Never heard of Fairfield, Iowa. And then I moved to California. I'm on this transpersonal journey, and then maybe not even into at the sort of the end of my master's degree in counseling psychology, then I started hearing about this name, and it's been there all along, this Fairfield, Iowa. I want to visit.
You would probably really like it. I mean,
Yeah.
Parsons College used to be here, and then the group of meditators here, they bought the college. And so we have a university here. So there's people from all over the world that come here. And I would say at least half the town is, they practice transcendental meditation. So that makes for a very unique environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, and for me, I knew one person here, and I thought, well, I'm living in Chicago in the city. I'd been in the city for like almost 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, I'll move to the middle of nowhere, Iowa, and I'm not going to have any distractions, and I can just write my book. And then I ended up like meeting the whole town and like really falling in love with it here.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So you're in Fairfield, Iowa now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. That because I've met maybe or I haven't met, but I know of something like 30 people from Fairfield, Iowa that are attending Sophia University.
Really?
Yeah, so some like
Well, but
astronomical.
that makes sense, because even here we have a consciousness-based school. So I think people in this neighborhood would be interested in that type of education.
Right.
You know, I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand with their lifestyle.
Yeah, it's so cool. But I have heard that people have felt sort of boxed in, maybe in a similar way that you described comparative religion. And comparative religion, maybe you are only it just doesn't give you the room to experience what is in, through, and happening to you and outside of you, outside of the context of a specific thing. And instead, transpersonal psychology allows you to kind of push these boundaries of what spirituality could mean to you.
Exactly. That's like, you nailed it. And I was looking for more experiences and knowledge, for them to go hand in hand. But again, I didn't think that was an option. Like, I didn't know what that was. And now that I'm sitting here, I think I was writing my book when I was getting my master's degree.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought I
just
walked
was
up
like,
to you
wait a
at the same
second.
time.
Right. Yes, I must have been. I got my timeline screwed up because, again, I have no sense of time. But anyway, yeah, I think a consciousness-based school is incorporating the experiences with the knowledge. And to me, that's like golden. That's like everything. Then you really absorb it.
Yeah. It's a beautiful field that we are a part of and involved in, and that we get the opportunity to transform, to be an impactful influence in the transformation of other people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just continues to nourish us. It continues to nourish our own ongoing transformation.
Yeah. And I wanted a different way of looking at things. I didn't want the same old. Like, I wanted to expand my mind in the idea of even helping people. So when I was in my master's degree, at the same time, I was doing the coaching track, which was another amazing experience to have. To be doing both of those at the same time, it was just an extraordinary experience.
Yeah. So the In Deep Shift, that's another compelling title. Did that come to you in a dream as well?
No, it didn't. I was talking to my editor, and we were laughing that when you start having shifts in consciousness, you can feel like you're in deep shit because nothing makes sense. You're overwhelmed. Everything has changed. Oh my God, what am I going to do? And so we came up with the title together, In Deep Shift.
That's awesome. In Yeah, it does feel like you're in deep shit
It does.
when you're going through like a spiritual emergency, just crisis, and sometimes when you don't have the community around you, you don't have any guidance from anybody
It's the
else.
whole reason I wrote the book, because I
I-
didn't want people to feel alone. I mean, even if they had that book in their hands, the worst part to me is to think that people would be told that they're crazy or, not believed in any of that. Like, I actually couldn't handle that in my heart. So that was the purpose behind this book, to make people feel seen and less alone, because it's not crazy. I feel like it's as natural can be. Like, we're
Yeah,
meant to evolve. We're meant to have expanded consciousness and awareness. Like, that's what we are. So, but if you talk to the wrong people, they're going to start suggesting medication and, uh, get some psychological help, which you might need. But I think it's good to surround yourself with other people that maybe have had similar experiences or are educated in that field, so you can be understood, which absolutely takes the trauma level way down.
yeah. The sort of the problem with that pathological approach is that it is the permanence of it, the permanence of being on these psychiatric medications for
Mhm.
the rest of your life. Sometimes that the medication can be helpful for these periods of time.
Yeah.
I like it to be thought of as homeostatic disruption. And
Hmm.
so it is disrupting the homeostasis that has gotten you into these maybe episodes of panic and anxiety and crisis. But then on the other side of that, with the right support and guidance, mentorship, those things can help you find this new homeostasis that will be even more effective. You'll be on the maybe the other side of that deep shift.
Absolutely. You cross the Rubicon and there's no going back. And then life really gets exciting and beautiful. But it is a new way of living. And so for people to feel overwhelmed or anxious or confused, like, that's totally normal.
Yeah.
But I think the support is critical.
Absolutely, the support is critical. So, thank you for books like this. Thank you for this book, so that other people can find that support in your writing. In Deep Shift, well, as I was reading it, it just felt so personal to me. It felt so like just having a conversation with somebody, and that's incredibly impactful when you feel so alone, when you feel like you don't have the community support, and you're looking for something like that.
Yeah. And I mean, you start having like non-ordinary experiences and stuff, and it's really off the wall. Like, that can really throw you for a loop. So to have someone be like, no, that's like, it happens. It's normal. You're not, you know, off your rocker. This is like a part of it. It's energy moving through your body. It's not what you think it is, and you will make it through. Um, I don't know. That was the goal.
Yeah, yeah. You nailed it. So I am fascinated by these moments, right? These instant events, these events that become they catalyze this experience of transformation. And early on, I asked this question in transpersonal psychology: do people even want to transform? Is that something that people want in general, in objectively looking at human beings? Do they want transformation? Do they want these individual moments of deepening their spiritual experience and expanding their minds and investing in their bodies in healthy ways? Do they want that? And it seemed very true that yes, they do want that. And so what are these moments that put people in deep shift?
Well, I mean, I don't even know if they consciously want it, because I don't think you even know what it is till you have the experience. Like
Mm.
I told you before, I always loved spirituality. I mean, again, this is like my whole life. I was reading everything I could get my hands on. My mom used to tell me, like, just pass your classes and then read whatever you want, at home, because it was like consuming me in a way, in a good way, in a healthy way. But I never could have comprehended what can happen to you when you have these shifts in consciousness, because I don't think it's something you can read in a book only. You have to experience it, and then you can read about it. So it helps you process it and understand it. So I think in theory, people are like, yeah, I want to have that experience, and I want to take care of my body and make all of this work together in order to kind of like, quote unquote, move forward. But it's like explaining to someone like what, I don't know, a peach tastes like. You have to actually like taste some of it, even if it's a glimpse. And then I think you start maybe moving towards that. And then there's the whole other subject of leaning back instead of leaning into it, because I don't think this is something you can force. I think it's something that happens to you. And then how do you deal with it? I mean, at least that has been my experience.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I call it opposite land. Like you think you can push and push and push, but it's really like it will come to you. And then how you deal with it and integrate it, that's what makes all the difference in the world.
Mhm. So you see that as leaning back, not leaning in?
Yeah, leaning back. And then you kind of go on autopilot. Like all of a sudden, you've had these experiences and you look at your body differently. You look at your group of friends differently. You realize like, I'm not going to pollute my system, because you see how holy this is. So you naturally, start moving your body more, and you start eating better. It's like, it's not like a forced thing on you. You become that. You like to meditate more, be alone more. These hallmarks that come with expanded awareness. It's like you don't treat your body anymore like a garbage can, because you realize you are it.
Yeah.
So I think you have to have some glimpses of it to start then moving towards more of it.
So then you begin to allow it to happen to you rather than forcing this
Yeah.
shift to happen.
I think people get in trouble when they're like doing yoga, doing Reiki, going to energy healing, like they're doing 500 things, and it's like too much of a good thing is not good either. And it can get real confusing, and you can have all sorts of experiences that maybe are not as smooth, and you're like out of the flow, and that can get real hairy too. So I always tell people like, take it easy, just like lean into things a little bit. If you like yoga, then do a little bit more of that, but like you can't push it. It's I don't know, I feel like it comes to you.
Yeah, I get that. I think that people run out of RAM. They run
Yes,
out of
yes,
battery power to if
yes.
they're forcing it all the time.
Yeah,
If
because
every
it's a lot
day,
of energy.
right. And if every day I'm just focused on how can I be better? How can I transform myself? How can I, you
That's
know,
not sustainable.
yeah.
And it's like exhausting. Like, I don't know, I want to have a peaceful life. Like that feels exhausting.
Yeah, yeah, it is exhausting. I think that really good metaphor for this is that if you're out in the wilderness, you don't want to when you start a fire, you don't want to waste all of your gasoline or all of your firewood so that you can have this biggest burning fire. You want the biggest burning fire ever, and that can cause problems. That can burn down the wilderness. But what you want is to be able to keep your embers warm so that you can start the fire anytime you need to start the fire. And so you
Perfect.
do these small practices and you lean in a little bit. So I like what you're saying there. Are there certain transformative practices that you gravitate towards more than others, or that you encourage other people more than others?
I mean, of course I love to meditate now because I had such an amazing experience with it, and I've played with it, like how I feel if I don't meditate versus how I feel if I do meditate. And my conclusion is like life is just smoother. So it's something, you know, for me it's like I'm on autopilot now, and it makes my life better. So I do that. I'm really aware of my sleep. I don't mess with that anymore. Like I need to get good rest at night. And like that makes all the difference. It's simple things like I want to eat fresh food. I want to exercise. It's like these little practices that seem like, well, duh, it's like they make a huge difference in your life. And, you know, I've tried other things. I've tried yoga. I like it, but I'm not like obsessed with it. And, you know, different chanting and stuff like that. And nothing has hit me as hard as meditation, that I feel like will be a constant with me till the day I die.
Is it the
And
silent
prayer, and
peace
prayer. It's the
and prayer?
silence. It's I've described it like when I meditate, I feel like I'm having a near-death experience. Like every time I close my eyes, it's like I'm going to another place and experiencing something that is of another world. And for me, I like it because my whole life, I felt like I had one foot in another world. So it just feels very familiar to me, and it like bridges that gap. And I've always needed that. And then I found it. So I kind of felt like that's been enough for me.
Mhm.
I'm not like a spiritual junkie.
Mhm.
I'm not.
Like that. And so many people that start on a spiritual journey, they initially, in that very first kind of section of their experience, they do become this like a spiritual junkie, and they
Yeah.
run out of brand, they run out of fuel.
Yeah. I mean, I really just live my life and I meditate. I've made things very simple in my world. I've gotten rid of a ton of distractions. I like to be alone a lot. I like the silence. I like to read and write. I mean, it's as simple. I never got married, don't have kids. It's like as quiet and simple as humanly possible. But within that, it's so dynamic and interesting. And again, I feel like I'm living like an opposite land of like what I thought life had to be. It's not.
Wow, that's awesome. And do you believe that like it's really just about people's design of how they want this experience to unfold in their lives?
Yeah. I mean, I just kept moving towards what I felt was right for me. And it probably looks very different than how I used to live. And that's fine because I feel very authentic, because I just knew like I had to live a certain way. And, you know, we have different seasons in our lives. You know, maybe a year from now, I'm doing something totally different, but that core self, it never ever changes. That silence, like it never leaves me no matter what.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
So what are the challenges that somebody that feels themselves in deep shift, or what should they be, what are the challenges that they might be dealing with? How do they overcome these challenges? What are they looking forward to on the other side of deep shift?
I mean, I think when you start connecting to your true self, like capital T, true self, your authentic life, that brings a lot of happiness and fulfillment to your life. And that's something to really look forward to. I think we're conditioned to live a certain way, and it's just simply not true. So when you start carving out your own path, it's like the whole world opens up to you, the whole universe. I mean, it's really an incredible experience, but it's almost as though you have to unlearn everything you've learned to then live this way. And that can be very challenging on many, many different levels. You have to deal with your family, your friends, maybe leaving a partner, changing jobs, changing locations where you live. It's never ending because literally everything changes. You're turned inside out. And so it takes a lot, like that to me is courage, not writing a book. Like dealing with that takes courage, and to stand up for yourself and be able to see all the signs in front of you and follow them. It's like you're operating on a whole other level.
Yeah. Do
And
do
you're kind of the minority. You are the, not kind of, you are the minority. So you have to carve your own path. And it's like pretty challenging.
how do people deal with being misunderstood by their family and friends and their community, and what
It's
do you
hard. It's
advice?
hard.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
you have to build a lot of strength inside. And I never wanted to be like combative or anything like that. I don't think there's a need for that. I think it's probably wise if you're having experiences like this to work with a therapist, a transpersonal therapist, if you can, and, really get the support, get someone on your team that is understanding what you want, who you really are. And eventually you'll gain the strength to just live on your own terms, and whatever will be, will be.
Yeah.
Your family, like if you're an adult, they just have to deal with it, and they get used to it after a while. And if it turns into a real problem, well, then you have to make a decision, like, is it me or them? And it's like, please choose yourself. It's not being selfish. Like, ultimately, they're not working with you either.
Yeah. If the evidence is clear that you need to make a decision so that you can be authentic to yourself, make that choice.
Make that choice. And it might take you years because, again, we're conditioned to be a certain way. It's really hard to undo that because all of society is telling you, like, that's the way it's done. So to stand on your own and say, like, no, I feel sick when I do that. Like, I don't want to. I don't want to live that way. It takes time and perseverance, and you do need support, so you feel like you're not completely alone in this.
Yeah. And Valerie, it still feels like, the chapter is always in transition. I'm constantly in deep shift. What is the other side? The deep shift is done?
I don't know if it's ever done completely. I do think you have longer and longer periods of just being. You don't feel like tortured or confused. You just kind of are. But you got to work through a lot of crap before you get to that point. You might have like a honeymoon phase where you have a big shift in consciousness and everything is coming up roses for a year or two. But like, ultimately, I don't think that's how the world is set up. Like, you're going to feel some sort of pain again to shake yourself up and keep expanding and learn more. And that can come in many, many forms. And, but I think you get better at dealing with stuff as you keep taking the hits.
Yeah, you get better at dealing with it. You get better at knowing what is true to you. You get better at being aligned in your integrity with this is the way that you're authoring your narrative and operating your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, you gain an inner strength that I'm always like, I don't want to say out loud, I can handle anything, because then God knows what'll be thrown my way. But you can definitely handle a lot. You become a very strong, confident person. And it's quiet. It's quiet confidence. It's again, that knowing inside, like, I got this. I know what's right for me. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. It is really powerful to know your true self, capital T, as you said.
Yeah. And that's not something you can just get out of a book. Like I think it's on the heels of experiences, which can be on the heels of great pain. I think it's like nature's way of getting our attention. My brother used to tell me, and this is the first page, the dedication in the book, like, there's no atheists in foxholes. So when you are brought to your knees, like, you start looking for answers, like, you need help. And that level of surrender leads you to unbelievable expansion.
Yeah, that's incredible. So do you think that Valerie, are we as a society in deep shift?
Yeah, I think this whole situation with COVID, like, I got COVID at the beginning of December. I never got it. Obviously we all lived through the pandemic and we're stuck in our houses. Like, I was living in the Bay Area and I like left and went to Boulder, and I thought, what the hell's happening? I mean, none of us have ever experienced that before. And for us spiritual folks, I think, like, you couldn't help but think, like, oh my God, this is a shift on a massive scale, because the pain
Yeah.
that was just in the air was, I mean, it was excruciating.
Mhm.
And then I actually got COVID. And I was sick for 2 months. Like I literally just started feeling better this Monday, which would have been 2 months exactly. And I thought to myself, this is not just a physical disease. This is a spiritual illness because it shook me to my core.
Yeah.
And I just thought about all the people in the world that got that. And not everybody had such an extreme experience, but lots of people did. And I
Yeah.
don't know if that's going to lead to some sort of tipping point, but how could that not wake you up in some way, shape, or form? Our lives were so disrupted. And
So
I
just
just feel like on the heels of pain comes, awakenings.
absolutely the pain that your first chapter in Deep Shift is if you're losing your shit like that, like that's that it's happening.
It's
The
happening.
it's happening. Like that's a sign that the society is feeling the pain in the middle of that pandemic or early on. There's that social revolt of human rights,
Yeah.
and everybody was I'm here in the Bay Area in San Jose, and there's a riot police outside.
Super
People,
intense.
yeah, it was very intense, and this is that deep shift manifesting itself.
Yeah, it totally is. And like, I had moved out, I was in San Mateo and I
Yeah.
had been living out there for a year. And then um I was going to like the grocery store or something, maybe 5 days before the whole Bay Area went into a lockdown. And I mean, I was like, what is going on right now? But like, I'm so sensitive. I knew, obviously, I knew something was going on, but I had no idea what that would look like or feel like. And I remember like the anxiety started setting in because it was just so strong in the air. And then when they announced the lockdown, like the Bay Area was the first place to go into a lockdown. And I remember calling my dad and saying, like, I don't know that many people out here yet. Like, what is a lockdown? And we made the decision together. Like, he was like, pack your stuff and get out of there because I don't know what that means either. I didn't know if they were going to like lock us in our houses. It was so intense. And that I did. I packed my dog up. I gave all the food and toilet paper and everything I had to my friends. And I like got in the car and drove to Reno and drove through like a massive snowstorm. Everything was chaotic. Like getting to the hotel, the lady at the front desk was crying. Like it was as intense could be. And I thought, oh shit, like here we go. Here we go. And then, I mean, I could never have foreseen that it would go on that long.
Right.
And so how could that not affect all of us, the whole world? How could it not?
Yeah, it was so intense, and people, spiritual people, were recognizing that like this is a happening. This is a collective transition. This is a collective shift into more awareness. More consciousness is expanding.
What
We're
else would it
rapidly.
be? What else could it be? I mean, I don't know. I've never seen anything like that in my life. It was like,
Yeah.
wow.
And the Bay Area was the first to lock down, the last to unlock. It was
I was scared. I
so
really was
crazy.
scared. I was like, it's me and my 6-pound dog, and I'm going to Boulder, where at least I can like walk out in fields. I didn't know what to do. I was totally the terror had set in, and I think I'm a pretty calm person. So I can't imagine, collectively what did that feel like all over the world. And yeah, I think it changed the way people think and live for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to ask you also about this last chapter in Deep Shift. Transformed people transform people. Can you say a little bit about that, because that is so much of the wounded healer. That's a narrative, that's an archetype.
Mhm.
The wounded healer, transpersonal psychologists, having suffered through their own traumas or their own spiritual emergencies, or other people in different fields and different walks of life, they experience, just like you're saying, the deep shift the trauma that causes that deep shift to happen. And then they become healers. They become people that are impactful and influential in other people's lives. Can you say a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, what would make a better healer than that? Someone that's actually been through it. I want someone that's been dragged through the mud, not someone that just read about it, right? So, and I also think it's a natural progression. Like when you learn things, the secrets of the universe, or you have like some crazy, amazing experience that changes your life. For me, it's obvious that it would be a natural progression to then want to help others. I think when you do start having shifts in consciousness and this expanded awareness, your world is not this anymore. It's not this pinhole, this grain of sand that's your life. You start thinking about the collective, the world, and how you can be of service, and that is like, to me, maybe the most beautiful part of all of this. It's like hurt people, transformed people, transform people. And it's like, what else would you be doing? Like you've had the experience, you've now seen the light. Why wouldn't you be there for other people to help them? Because how many people need help? I mean, I needed help and people were there to help me. You become, you just want to give back, whatever that may be. For me, it was writing and, talking to people, doing some speaking. But I always say, if everybody just did one thing that they loved, and if it was art or music or whatever, and put that out in the world, we'd have a transformed world.
Yeah, because your heart begins to be inflated, and you want, in a good way, it's expanded. It wants to include others. It wants to bring others on the journey and expand the tribe of people that are awake, people that have been through their shifts and have gotten through their shit too.
Yeah, and I have mad respect for people that do the work. I mean, I've gotten better, but it was really hard for me for a long time to understand, all this help is available to someone and they just won't do it. And then I realized well, they're just not there yet. But the people that take a deep dive into cleaning up their side of the road and doing whatever necessary to get their shit together, I tip my hat to you, because I know how hard it is. It's awful, but damn it, it's worth it.
Yeah, it is worth it. And thank you so much for your work. Enlightenment is sexy, and in Deep Shift, this is helping people get them along in the journey. You're inviting people into the conversation. You're inviting people to be comfortable and to have somebody to talk to have somebody to work this out with. And in Deep Shift, there's exercises, there's ways to continue to deepen and to unravel some of those knots that happens when you're in that process.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it seems complicated, and when you're in it, it feels really complicated. But when you start, like you said, undoing the knots, when you look back, you're like, it's not complicated, but you do have to do the work. It's not going to unravel itself without you being involved. And, that's the challenging part.
Yeah. So get support, get other people around you, get this book, get resources so that you are able to have the strength and gain the knowledge. The universe is going to be sending you the sort of knowledge that you need in order. If you're listening to this conversation, this is the universe giving you this opportunity to get this book, have more of these conversations, get into community, find mentors, find guides, find a transpersonal therapist. Get people involved in your process so that it makes it easier, so that those knots actually find the knots find their way home, find their way out of.
And you'll be shocked at how fast you'll move through issues and stuff, because you do have this alivened awareness, you can see further and deeper into situations, past traumas, all of that. And things do move faster than if you're like really dense and you really have no awareness, then it's like real struggle. So the path does get easier the more and more you wake up. But yeah, keep the course. Got to keep going.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Valerie. I really appreciate the conversation. I was so excited to have this, and I think it was so valuable for other people listening in. Thank you so much. In Deep Shift is her new book. Go out and get that. It's in Barnes and Noble. Were you so excited that it was in Barnes and Noble?
I was so
awesome.
I was like, oh my God, my childhood dreams are coming true.
Right. So beautiful. I'm so proud of you and your journey. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
Yeah. You are in deep shift in your life right now. That is sexy. Enlightenment is sexy. Growth is sexy. Those growing pains that you're experiencing are making you more attractive to the universe. My conversation with Valerie Gangas, author of Enlightenment is Sexy and In Deep Shift, out now at Barnes & Noble and Amazon, was incredible. Subtitled to this, In Deep Shift, Riding the Waves of Change to Find Peace, Fulfillment, and Freedom. Our conversation will help you understand the process. It'll help you understand why it is so hard to go through those shifts alone, to go through those things alone. Guidance, help in that transformation. And it is a process. It'll help you understand all of that. She is a wonderful scholar of transpersonal psychology. Make sure to get her book right now and check out the podcast. Comment, like, share, subscribe. Engage with it in any and every way that you can. I appreciate it. Together we are moving humanity forward. Thank you.